Hello, everyone. Kiris here. Today we are taking a look at the Judicial Astrology chart for Donald J. Trump. If this birth information is accurate, June 14th, 1946 at 10:54 a.m. in Queens, New York, then this is the chart. I always say that because we never really know for sure if we're being given publicly the accurate birth information. Now, having said that, let's take a look at the chart from an impartial, discerning, no personal bias or opinions projected on the chart. This is just what the chart is showing. Now, when we look at this chart, the first thing is take a look at what's called the balance of the chart. You'll notice that most of the planets, except for the moon, are on what's called the oriental eastern side of the chart. This is the oriental, this is the west occidental side of the chart. When someone has most of or all of their planets on the eastern side of the chart, this is someone that is a self-made person. They are going their own way in life, as opposed to the western side of the chart is when someone is born into a destiny, let's say, like Princess Diana, where their path, their destiny in life is there before them, and they follow that destiny, that path. Not so when we look at the eastern side of the chart. This is the person that goes against what they were told they are supposed to do or what their destiny was supposed to be, and they make their own way. So notice how most of the planets, except for the moon, are on the oriental side of the chart. Now, one of the challenges when someone has the planetary placements all on the eastern side, or mostly on the eastern side, is that this can bring in a sense of loneliness, because the challenge is, well, how do I balance out the chart and reach out and connect to others? Whereas if someone has most of the planets on the western side, and these are the charts where people want to please others, they can suppress the truth of who and what they are to get along, to fit into the group. So the challenge of the chart, if mostly everything is on the western side, is to learn how to create and embrace their own individuality, to go their own way in life, to stand up as an individual. Now, when we break up the quadrants of the chart, meaning the first through the third house, the fourth through the sixth, seventh through the ninth, and then the 10th to the 12th house, these four quarters all have their own meaning when it comes to the balance of the chart. So when the first house, which is I am the individual, second house, this is what I have, these are my talents and abilities, my money. Third house, how I think, the lower mundane education, grade school through high school. The fourth house, I feel, home, family, privacy. Fifth house, I create, children, the teenage years, the rebellion. Sixth house relates to the sign of Virgo, which is the single young adult that is not still at home, not married. Seventh house. This sixth house, Virgo house, is the house of developing self-reliance. When you go out and you're away from home for the first time and you learn how to get your own place and start your own career, and you're learning how to make it on your own. Virgo is very self-sufficient. Seventh house is the house of the other. which is when we get married and we learn balance and compromise and how to get along and share. 8th house is we have joint finances, joint inheritance. 9th house is I have faith, which is what is the philosophy, the religion, the beliefs that you live by. 10th house is what you're giving back to the world, the highest potential. It's the Capricorn house in the natural wheel, which says, I use. How can I be of use? 11th house is the hopes, wishes, and goals for the future and the group and the people collectively. And then the 12th house is the house of I believe. The 12th house is the darkest hour before dawn, right before sunrise, when we say I believe, because after having gone through all of the lessons and tests and stages of development through houses 1 through 11, we get to the 12th house, and this is called the house of undoing in astrology, when we just give it all up to God, a higher power, and say, I believe. There are certain things in life that you've been through, what's called the dark night of the soul, when you have experienced it wasn't just you yourself that brought you back. First house is the dawn, the sunrise. 12th house is the darkest hour, right before sunrise. Again, as is promised, the sun will rise tomorrow, no matter how much darkness you may be going through in the 12th house. So in this astrology chart, there is a lot of focus in planetary power through the 10th to the 12th house, meaning after all of the stages of maturity, growing up, learning how to share, when we get to the 4th quadrant, 10th, 11th, and 12th house, this focus of power in those 3 houses is, what am I going to give back? What am I going to share when we look at 10, 11, and 12? 1 through 3, first through the 3rd house, is more about your individual development. The 4th through the 6th as are the houses of when a child is turning into a young adult, a teenager, and learning how to set off and go out on their own and develop a sense of self-reliance. 7th through the 9th, again, is marriage and shared resources and shared 9th house values, principles that we live by. And then the 10th is you've been through all of those stages of development. And now what do you want to give back? Notice how 10th, 11th, and 12th house in this chart is packed with wanting to focus and give back. So the balance of the chart is on the eastern side, with most of the planetary power in the 3 houses that have to do with contribution and where are we going in the future. In astrology, we work with the 4 elements of life: fire, air, earth, and water. This chart has air, water, fire, but no planets at all in the element of earth. So we have a lacking, what's called a lacking element. Earth is calm, grounded, centered. This chart is very high strung, with most of the elements in air, fire, and water. So what needs to be brought into balance in this chart is calm, centeredness. In this chart, I would suggest bring in the colors of earth, nature, because very little heals us and calms us down like the element of earth, nature. So to help bring into balance this chart, what would be suggested is that have forest greens and chocolate brown and burgundy, those types of colors that are a reminder of nature and earth. This is a chart of someone that really needs, as we all do, but really needs to be out in nature. It helps to bring that centeredness and sense of healing to be in nature and close to the earth, because there isn't earth in this chart. This chart would need, and what would help them balance out, to be around people that have a calmer, quieter, we could say more earthy, down to earth type of energy. The workers, the people that work and live close to the earth. We all know that the first astrologers were farmers. We lived in an agricultural society for thousands of years, close to the earth, and what was happening in nature. Weather prediction is the first astrology, and what was happening in nature was of utmost importance because our survival depended on it, still does, but we are more intellectual, mind-oriented, and disconnected from the earth. You could look at a farmer's almanac today at your grocery store checkout line, and you will see astrological moon cycles and things of that nature that show what's happening in nature, what's happening with the weather. So this chart here, even getting like a little bonsai tree that you have to take care of, because a bonsai tree needs a special kind of sunlight. But having something that connects this person to nature is of utmost importance with this lack of the earth element in this chart. Now let's take a look at the moon, because the moon is what we need to feel satisfied, content, centered, and peaceful. The moon represents the nurturing mother, the inner child, and the needs that we have, but also the nurturing mom is represented by the moon in astrology. Now, this person has the moon in Sagittarius, which is big, wants it all, Jupiter ruled, and this moon is conjunct what's called the South Node, the tail of the dragon, as it is called in the East. So the South Node is the weakest link. It's a draining point in astrology. It is called the point of undoing. And to have the planet that represents the mom in the sign of Sagittarius, which is, I don't want the responsibility of a child and or children, conjunct the South Node, then this right here is one of the components in this chart that shows that there are big time mother issues in this chart, that somehow this person did not get the mothering care that is typically at its best, like the moon at home in the sign of Cancer, a great mom. When the mom or whoever the primary caretaker is, when they are happy to fulfill the needs of the infant watches and imitates and learns how to fulfill their needs and happiness for themselves. Babies watch, learn, and imitate not only the behavior, but the behavior emotionally, intellectually, culturally, and so forth. So this moon is highly challenged in this chart, being conjunct the south node. Also in this chart, Saturn is in the sign of Cancer. Cancer being ruled by the moon, which again represents the nurturing mom in astrology. Now, Saturn is at home, its domicile in the sign of Capricorn. Saturn in Cancer is the furthest away. It's detrimental placement. This is the second signature in this chart that shows that there is a challenge with having the mother love that every child needs. So the mom is distant, not attentive in this chart. Now, also in this chart, this person is what's called a full moon baby, meaning the sun is in Gemini. The opposite is the moon in Sagittarius. When someone is born at the time of the full moon, then what I call a full moon baby carries a big light, a big presence, because the light of the full moon is putting a spotlight, we could say, shining down on this person. So this person has a big presence being born at the time of the full moon. The sun in this chart is conjunct the north node, the true north, following your North Star home, and it's up in the 10th house. So moon on the south node, lack of mothering. The masculine, the sun, is on the north node, up in the 10th house, as this child is a full moon baby. And if we don't get the needs of the moon fulfilled in an astrology chart, then all kinds of anxieties, irrational fears, a sense of never being satisfied is in the chart when the moon and mother components in the chart are challenged. So the sun, the father, the masculine, is on the north node in the house of the highest potential and what you want to contribute back to the world. Now, let's take a look at what's called the 11th house for a moment, because in the 11th house, and I'm using equal house, in the 11th house, this person has 3 planets in the element of water: Mercury, Saturn, which we talked about, and Venus, all in the sign of Cancer, which is I feel, caring. Cancer rules over food. So there's a component in this chart where to feed the people, the public, this is the 11th house. This is a chart that is a foodie, big time mom, and food issues in this chart. So there's a signature in this chart where the person is like a nice Jewish mother. Can I give you some chicken soup, honey? With all these 3 planets in Cancer, food is a big issue, and feeding and giving food and how to feed the people. This is the 11th house. In the future, the 11th house is a very strong component. Also, anything having to do with water, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, the water sign. Water brings in a great sense of intuition and emotional intelligence and the ability to feel. If you're ever looking at an astrology chart that doesn't have any water in the chart, that is a very important signature as far as a lack of empathy, a lack of feeling the pain and suffering of others. Water is the element that, when it sees suffering, wants to alleviate that suffering, wants to somehow do something to help heal that pain and suffering. This is the water element. So water in the 11th house of the future, and the 11th house has a lot to do with philanthropy and benefits and fundraising and raising money to help others. There has been a lot of funding given to organizations and groups to help them benefit in the future. Now, along with all of that water caring, let's take a look at the ascendant, because the ascendant is 29 degrees Leo, which aligns with the royal heart of the lion, Regulus, one of the royal watchers. Regulus is the watcher of the north. It is a signature in the chart of royalty, kings, protection, benevolence. This is the royal watcher of the north on this ascendant, which again, if the time is correct, because it's so close to changing signs, the progressed ascendant now in the United States chart is in Virgo, but at this time of birth in this chart, it was around 28, 29 degrees Leo. So this person has a sense of being regal and protective, very entertaining, because Leo is the sign of creative expression. So very entertaining, larger than life to have Regulus right on the ascendant. The first house is your body, it's your health, it's your vitality. And Regulus is there with Mars in Leo conjunct the ascendant. Now, when Mars is accidentally dignified and it's conjunct the first house in a very friendly triplicity or element, Mars and fire, it's a very strong Mars that will fight to the death. This is a warrior component. This person will not back down from a fight no matter what, with that Mars right on the ascendant, also making a fire trine flow to the moon in Sagittarius, immutable fire Sagittarius. So if the fight is started, this person will fight to the death. Now, a long time ago, there was a Hollywood hunk called Robert Mitchum, and Robert Mitchum actually was a Leo, and he was known for liking to get into fights and going to jail and being released and all that kind of thing. Now, he once said, "The only man I would be afraid to fight," because everyone feared Robert Mitchum, was as big as the doorway, but the only man that Robert Mitchum said he would be afraid to fight was Frank Sinatra, because Frank Sinatra, all 5'7" of him, 120 pounds, Robert Mitchum said, he's the only man I'd be afraid to fight, because I know that when the fight is over, one of us will not be getting back up. So Frank Sinatra, with the same placement, would fight to the death. This is Mars in Leo, fixed fire. And in this case, it is right on the ascendant. So yes, this is a warrior component. won't go looking for a fight, but if the fight is brought to Mars in the first house on the ascendant, very strongly placed in fire, then it will be a fight to the end. Now, let's take a look at, I want to go over to the other side and look at the seventh house. Now, the cusp of the seventh house, and the seventh house is the marriage partner, your mate. And to have 29 degrees Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn, ruling the cusp of the seventh house of marriage, we have to take a look at Saturn. And so the marriage partner is Saturn in the 11th house of friendship and making a conjunction to Venus, the ruler of the 10th house of career. So this is someone that would marry a friend that understands that this person that we're looking at today is married in a certain sense to the public, to the career. The 10th house is also the government in astrology. So the Saturn conjunct the Venus is what represents the right partner or the best partner in this astrology, which would be a good friend that understands that career and going on this person's ride, we could say, is the right partner for them. The Mercury in Cancer makes a square aspect of activation to Jupiter. Now, when we have Mercury, which is the communicator, the mind, making a square aspect to Jupiter, which is the comedian, Jupiter in Sagittarius in astrology is known as funny, the clown, sense of humor. Couple of things show with this aspect that the Mercury square Jupiter is someone that has a great sense of humor and is very funny. Also, Mercury square Jupiter, which is big increase, keeps going. I think it's fair to say that this person can talk and talk and talk and just keep going with Mercury, the mind, and the planet of communication, making that square to Jupiter in Libra. The Jupiter in Libra is the Jupiterian quest for peace. The Mercury in this chart also makes a square to Neptune. Now, Neptune is the vision, the dream, and this is a mind that has a very active imagination. This is a dreamer. This is someone that would make a great musician, artist, dancer with this Mercury making a square to Neptune, which is the artist, the dreamer, the music, the dancer. So a very big mind, we could say. This is a mind that thinks big and dreams and imagines and can talk and has a great sense of humor with the Mercury square Jupiter. Now, the planet Uranus in this chart, we'll bring in a couple of the outer planets like we are Neptune, and now the planet Uranus is in Gemini, up in the 10th house, which is a signature of freedom, doing your own thing, going your own way, doing what is right for you. The sun in Gemini, which is the sign of the twins, is very restless. The signs of duality: Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. This is a restless kind of quality that is always seeking, searching for something, and can feel very dissatisfied, very restless. And so the sun in Gemini in this chart, conjunct the North Node up in the 10th house, is a component of never being satisfied, always looking for something, restless in the area of career. The sun in North Node is up in the 10th house of highest potential. So as soon as this person accomplishes a goal, they're on to, well, what's the next goal? What's the next thing? What is the next accomplishment? Never satisfied. And the word trump actually is derived from triumph, which is to achieve, to win, to accomplish goals. So this chart is highly geared in all kinds of ways for this soul to have come in and said or known that their soul contract is to go their own way, be a self-made person, everything on, or just about everything on the eastern side of the chart, to ultimately want to give back to the world, to have a very brave, fearless Mars right up front. What we see first house, how the person can come off as a brand, we could say. And these days, everybody is a brand, whether you realize it or not. No matter what you do for a living, you are a brand. That's just the way it is. But this brand signature is they're a fighter, they're a warrior, they will stop at nothing, yet has a very caring side with the 3 planets in Cancer, is very funny, can outtalk anybody, has Chiron the wounded healer in the 2nd house of personal finances. So Chiron the wounded healer represents where a person has been wounded, but also where their greatest healing can come from. Now, when it is in the 2nd house of not only personal finance, but the talents and abilities, the value that you have, that you are born with, this is also the 2nd house. So the value of what do you just have the knack for? What is it that you are just born with that brings value? This is the Chiron, the wounded healer journey in this chart for this person to find not only what they have that is of value, what they have the knack for, the talent that they were born with. This is how the healing takes place when the Chiron component is considered. There is no treasure on earth when that can compare, when you know that you know what you're doing, the value you have, and what it is that you know that you have. Also, the tremendous lack of mothering in this chart, where someone or the people in this person's life would want to give a lot of care and attention to this person, and also that this person is called to start at the 1st house, which we all do, the 1st house, the beginning, the first breath, and then the soul's journey starts off from the 1st house and makes its way to the 10th house, the highest potential. And when the North Node and the sun is up in the 10th, then the journey, the calling of this soul is to go to the 10th house and move away from the South Node and the past. The moon represents the past and the mom and memories. to move away from the emotional imprints, which is also the moon and the south node, to move away from that and go on its soul's journey calling to the 10th house, which is where the sun and the north node is, in the element of air, which is education, knowledge, learning, your mind, your attitude, your mindset. Gemini is forever young in spirit, because Gemini, which is very often symbolized by the archetype of Peter Pan, is about youth and the future adventure, not holding on to the past. So if you know a Gemini or people with strong Gemini in their chart, they will always seem to maintain and have this youthful quality, this youthful energy about them, because they're not holding on to and stuck in the heavy emotional muck of the past. It's about moving into the future. And Gemini is, I think, and so an attitude of positivity, and you can do whatever it is that you set your mind on. It's the mindset is where this person, this soul, wanted to go and has gone on their journey away from the south node in the 4th house of the family and the moon, the nurturing parent, and to move towards the top of the chart, which is to not only give back and serve the world, but teach. Gemini makes great teachers, that it's all in your attitude and state of mind, what you're thinking about. Think and grow rich. What the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. That's this 10th house sun sign, north node, with the planet of breaking away and being free, being your own individual. So with all of this very high-strung, restless energy without the element of earth, this is like a rock star's chart that needs balanced out. People that are very grounded and down to earth and patient. That's what this chart, from an impartial, objective look at the chart, is saying. So this is the judicial astrology. If the birth information is correct, and on the day of that horrible, inexcusable assassination attempt, where was the Secret Service? Now, on that day, Venus was in Leo, protecting. Venus is the lesser benefic. Jupiter is the greater protector. Venus is the lesser protector and brings in feminine energy. And on that day, Venus was in Leo, in the 12th house of hidden protection. And if you were to look at this chart, look at everything that is following behind the sun: Mercury, Saturn, Venus. The sun is rising first. Behind are the other planets. And on that day, Venus was in Leo, protecting in the 12th house of what is hidden, what is hiding in plain sight. Like it's right there behind you and you don't see it. That hidden protection, Leo, Venus in Leo, was there protecting this situation, along with other things, of course. But when I looked at what was going on that day, I found that very interesting, that Venus, the queen of heaven, was a very protecting energy and factor in this astrology chart. So these are some components to look at when you are assessing an astrology chart for whatever chart you happen to be looking at. This is the astrology. not personal opinion. And next week, I'm going to put up the judicial astrology of Kim Kardashian, because she is renowned worldwide as a beauty. And I want to look at and demonstrate what is going on with the planet of beauty, Venus, in that chart. So that would be the next one. Thank you, everyone. I will see you all in the stars, and have a fabulous day. Thank you.